so we're picking up with part 2. This is chapter 10, section 2, Government and Society in Rome, starting on page 304, and Civic Duty. Rome's government would not have worked without the participation of the people. People participated in the government because they felt it was their civic duty, or their duty to the city. The civic duty included doing what they could to make sure the city prospered or was very successful. For example, if they were expected to attend assembly meetings and to vote in elections. Voting in Rome was a complicated process, and not everybody was allowed to do it. Those who could, however, were expected to take part in all elections. When wealthy and powerful citizens also felt it was their duty to hold public office to help run the city. In return for their time and commitment, these citizens were respected and admired by other Romans. Checks and balances. This helps answer question 1B on the section assessment questions, which is your assignment. Checks and balances. In addition to limiting terms in office, so that's one check and balance, is not letting people only be in government for 1 year, unless you're in the Senate and then you're there for life. The Romans put other restrictions on their leaders' power. They did this by giving government officials the ability to restrict powers of other officials. For example, one council could block the actions of another. Laws proposed by the Senate had to be approved by the magistrates and ratified by the assemblies. We call these methods checks and balances. We call these methods of balancing power checks and balances. Checks and balances keep any one part of government from becoming stronger and more influential than the other. So the fact that one group is deciding and designing the law, so the Senate is designing the law, and then the magistrates have to vote on it and say yes, and then the assemblies also have to vote on it and say yes. So this is kind of like in Greece, where you have the Council of 500 who designed the laws. So the Council of 500 is like the Senate, and then the assembly voted on the laws, or the magistrate and the assemblies voted on the laws. So there is this balance, so this checks and balance. So a method of balancing power, so one side doesn't get too strong than the other. This idea is called a checks and balances. Checks and balances made Rome's government very complicated. Sometimes quarrels or fights arose when officials had different ideas or opinions. When officials worked together, however, Rome's government was strong and efficient, and as one historian noted, so this is a primary source, in unison, together they are a match for any and all emergencies, the result being that it is impossible to find a constitution that is better constructed. For whenever some common external danger should come upon them, and they should be compelled or force them to band together in counsel or thought and in action, the power of their state becomes so great that nothing that is required is neglected or ignored. In other words, that when they needed to, when they came together, they made really good decisions, they thought everything through, and they acted quickly. Right? So reading check, finding main ideas. What were the 3 parts of the Roman government? Okay, there were 3 parts, but one part kind of had 2 sections. I'm going to go back up to that graphic organizer. The 3 parts were the magistrates, the Senate, and the assemblies, and the tribunes. Continuing on with our reading. Written laws keep order. So this is going to help with question 2. So both question 2A and 2B. Or not to be, no, just question 2B. Written laws keep order. Rome's officials were responsible for making the city's laws and making sure that people followed them. At first, these laws weren't written down. The only people who knew all the laws were the patricians who had made them. Many people were unhappy with this situation. They did not want to be punished for breaking laws that they didn't even know existed. As a result, they began to call for Rome's laws to be written down and made accessible to everyone. Rome's first law code was produced in 450 BC on 12 bronze tables or tablets. These tables were displayed in the Forum, Rome's public meeting place. Because of how it was displayed, this code was called the Law of the 12 Tables. Over time, Rome's leaders passed many new laws. Throughout their history, though, the Romans took the laws of the 12 Tables as a symbol from Roman law and their rights as Roman citizens. Now, I'd like to point out that this is not the first time that laws have been written down. If you think back, can anybody remember what the first laws were in Mesopotamia? Maybe the Code of Hammurabi. So the 12 tables is like the Code of Hammurabi. It was the at the time that people weren't happy with the fact that the only people that knew what the laws were the very wealthy patricians. So they made a law, didn't tell anybody, you didn't follow the law, you're in trouble now. Well, that's not really fair. And so it's really hard. It's the same reason why the Mesopotamians wanted their laws written down. If I know what the law is, I can follow it and I won't break the law. And if I know what the laws are, I'm going to do the right thing. So I can't be accused of doing something wrong when I didn't know. And then I also have the responsibility of knowing what the laws are. So I can't say, oh, I didn't know it was wrong to steal from people. No one ever told me. Well, no, you know. And so you know what the law is. And so you know if you're following it or not. I'd like to point out that they're called the 12 tables. They were not written on tables like you have dinner. They were not on picnic tables and like carved into stone. And then people are eating their lunch and going, oh, did you know you shouldn't steal because it's on a table? It's just another word for a tablet. So they were written on bronze. So they were etched into metal and then they were placed up on pillars around the forum, right? So here's a historic document about the 12 tables. It says that the law of the 12 tables governed many parts of Roman life. Some laws were written to protect the rights of all Romans. Others only protected the patricians. The laws listed here should give you an idea of what kind of laws that the tables included. So from table 1, if anyone summons a man before the magistrate, he must go. If the man summoned does not go, then the one summoning him call the bystanders to witness them and they can take him by force. In other words, if you need to go before the judge, you have to go, or they're going to make you. From table 3, one who has confessed a debt or against whom judgment has been pronounced shall have 30 days to pay it. After that, forcible seizure of his person is allowed unless he pays the amount of the judgment. In other words, if you owe someone money, you have to pay them. If you don't pay them, then you will be arrested, right? We have females should remain in the guardianship even when they are attained their majority. Again, like Greece, women don't have a lot of rights. So it's saying that even if a woman is an adult, they're over the age of 18, they're legally considered children, and they need to listen to their parents or their husband. Not saying that I agree with it, just saying it's what they did. The last one, putting to death of any man, whoever he may be, is unconvinced and is forbidden. In other words, no one could be executed without a trial. So you couldn't just say, he wronged me, he should die. You have to go to court and there has to be a judge who decides that. So you can see that some of these laws are really similar to laws that we have today. Some are very different. But this is a primary source that you can look at a little bit more about the 12 tables. All right, moving forward, the forum. This is going to help you with question number 3. I believe the question is, what kinds of activities took place in the Roman forum? So you can take a look at the picture. We're going to start by reading this little background here. It says that the forum was the center of life in ancient Rome. The city's most important temples and government buildings were located there. The Romans met there to talk about the issues of the day. The word forum means public place. So I'm going to move this down so you can take a look at the picture as I read the paragraphs above. The Roman Forum is a place where the law of the 12 tables was kept. It was the heart of the city of Rome. It was the site of important government buildings and temples. Government and religion were the only part of what made the Forum so important, though. It was also a popular place for meeting for Roman citizens. People met there to shop, chat, and gossip. The Forum lay in the center of Rome between two major hills. On one side was the Plateaurum Hill, where Rome's richest people lived. Across from the Forum was the Cataluptan Hill, where Rome's grandstanded temple stood. Because of this location, city leaders could often be found in or near the Forum, mingling with the common people. These leaders used the Forum as a speaking area, delivering speeches to the crowds. But the Forum had also had attractions for people not interested in speeches. Various shops lined the open square, and fights between gladiators were sometimes held there. Public ceremonies were commonly held in the Forum as well. As a result, the Forum was usually packed with people. So how was the Forum the heart of the Roman society? Well, it kind of sounds like everything happened there. You could go shopping, you could listen to people giving political speeches. It's where all the government buildings were. Sounds a lot like a Greek word we just learned. It's a lot like the Greek agora. Right, so the things that happened in the agora also happened in the forum. In addition to that, there were also ceremonies and there were gladiator fights. So if we take a look a little bit, we have the Temple of Jupiter stood atop of the Capitolian Hill overlooking the forum. Jupiter is the same god as Zeus. The Romans conquered Greece and then stole a lot of their stuff. And they sold their religion was one of them, but they changed the names to make them more Roman. So Zeus becomes Jupiter. We have important government records were stored in the tabularium, or the like where you keep tablets. Roman citizens often wore togas, loose-fitting garments wrapped around the body. Togas were symbols of Roman citizenship. So if you weren't a citizen, you couldn't wear a toga, or just about at the 10-minute mark. Public officials often address people in this platform. So right over here at the platform at the bottom of this building of the tabularium, we have where we're going to give our speeches. On the other side of the picture, we have the Senate House is we meet here. The senators meet here at the Crucia or the Senate House. So we can see a couple more pictures of our Roman people. So the last little bit here, we have one last paragraph, the summary and preview. In this section, you read about the basic structure of Roman government. And the next section, you'll read how the government changed as Rome's territory grew and its influence expanded. So between the two videos, we have gone through the 4 questions. So your assignment is to make sure that you go through and answer these 4 questions, all the parts. So all you have to do is go to the document. And so you're going to write your answer here. So again, I copied the question from the textbook on page 307, and then you can type your answer here. You're doing questions 1, questions 2, question 3, and then question 4. On question 4, you will have to double click into the drawing so that you can double click into the text box, and then you can save your answer, and then it will show up here. So you've done this before, but just walking you through it here as well. If you have any questions, please make sure you send me an email and we'll talk with you soon. Bye.